Hello my dear friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu khatam al-anbiya wal mursaleen. I praise and thank the Almighty Creator for allowing me, for sparing me to be with you at this time. And the question I want to raise with you today is, what is Islam if we abandon the idea of sacred hadith? What is left of Islam if we abandon the sacredness of hadiths? In a previous discussion, and if you look back at some of my previous videos, you will see that I've taken some time to, from the holy text of the holy book, from the Mus'haf, from the Quran, I have drawn the inference from the text by studying and reflecting on the text. I've drawn the inference that hadith, as we know it, the narrations of the great narrators, Bukhari, Muslim, Ibn Majah, and on the Shia side, Mufid, Tusi, Kulaini, all these books are devoid of any sacred standing and value in Islam. I'm not saying they're devoid of any value. They are devoid of sacred standing and value. And so the inference or the conclusion that I've drawn is that there is no way of extracting divine law from these books. The words of God, the directives of God, the ayat of Allah are contained in the Holy Quran, in the 6,200 verses. And whoever claims the words of men, the narrations of men, to constitute the words of Allah, have committed a major error and a sin. And so this is a very difficult thing for people to become convinced of, because if you are born Muslim in today's world and you attend the schools that the priests and the old maintainers of the status quo have created and built, and I myself have been a maintainer of such a school, of a madrasa, then you are committed to the idea that hadith literature is in fact sacred. But I will just point you to one verse quickly as a follow-up before I proceed to the actual discussion. Go to Surah Luqman 31 verse 6. And there you will find where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. And of people there are those who buy absurd narrations to make the people lacking in knowledge lose the path of Allah and to mock this path. I just want you to sit long with this verse, and then you will come to the realization that there is no sacred text besides the holy book, the holy text of the Quran. All other texts are valid and are in their own way have usefulness, but they lack sacred value. In other words, they are not beyond question and beyond dispute. Their text, their contents are subject to scrutiny, subject to revision, subject to change, subject to rejection if we should decide to do that. And that is how I view the texts of hadith, in line with what this verse says. And go and look up this verse. But now, the point of this discussion is not to tell you again that there is no sacred text besides the revealed words of the Almighty, of the Creator, of the Quran. What I would rather want to address is the problem that some of you face in visualizing or conceiving of an Islam that is devoid of hadith. Because the questions that I've been asked and that generally surface when people realize that hadith has no sacred value, and that if a hadith says you have to say Amin, and Abu Huraira said, and whoever said that you must say Amin, or keep your hands in this posture, or keep your toes in, it's devoid of sacred value. It's just it's just words from people's mouths. It's not the word of Allah. It's not the decision of Allah that you should keep your hands on your stomach or keep your hands on your side. It is the decree of Allah that you should worship Him, that you should adore Him, that you should connect with Him, and that is all. Now some of you are worried because you don't know how to make salah without hadith. You don't know how to get up and go through your day because hadith is telling you to do this and do that, and sharia and fiqh, and you need this guidelines. It's very difficult to take the chains off a man's arms. It's very difficult. In 1865, there's a quote from the heroic lady Harriet Tubman, who went into forays into the south and rescued slaves from the master's plantations and brought them out of that state of slavery and brought them to freedom. And oftentimes this lady remarks in later years, she reflects upon these trips, these forays into the south to rescue slaves, and she says, I rescued a few thousand slaves. I could have rescued many, many thousands more, but they did not want to be free. They refused to be freed from the slave masters. The slaves became used to their chains. The slaves became comfortable with their chains. The slaves couldn't conceive of a world where they were free. They found it hard to think what they would do if the master was not there to tell them, do this, do that, or do that. They could not visualize themselves deciding for themselves what to do in the morning when they woke up, what to do during the day, how they would spend the empty hours of the day without the master or the master's missus, or the child of the master telling them what to do. You see, and that state of slavery physically was what hampered them, because they were so bound to the directives and the instructions and the program and the schedules of the master that they could not escape it, and they could not visualize themselves outside of that state. Now, we have a similar situation where the shackles are on our minds. You have been programmed. You have been programmed to see no life outside, to see no Islam outside the hadith, the tens of thousands of hadiths, and the priests who preach these hadiths, and the sharia which they've constructed from these hadiths, and the fiqh laws and the detailed minutiae of how to pray and how to do whatever, and how to go to sleep, how to wake up, how to spend your morning, how to give zakah, how to, because this is what they've done. They've crafted a detailed schedule for you, and you are unable to visualize yourself being a servant or being a slave of the Creator, being a lover being a devotee of the Creator outside of their program. Now, the word Sharia is it's not an alien word to the Quran. It is in the Quran, but in no place in the Quran, and any of these places where the word Sharia is mentioned, and I challenge you to go and look up the word Sharia in the Quran. At no place are you able to draw the conclusion that Sharia means holy law. At no place in the Quran are you able to draw the conclusion that Sharia means holy law. You go and look it up and you can see. You see, the word Sharia is now used similarly to the word halakha, to the halakha law. You know, in Talmudic Judaism, in the Judaic religion, Jewish religion, they have what is called halakha. It is the law, the sacred law. And it is the sacred law as conceived of and designed and developed by the rabbis, by the sages and the sacred and the holy men. And those men are the constructors, are the builders of the halakha, of the holy law. But that holy law is ascribed to Allah, to God. Wrongfully ascribed to God. Because in no way can that halakha be traced back to the will of Allah. And now Sharia has come to replace or to be an equivalent of halakha. Yes, there are laws in Islam. There are sacred parameters. I would rather call it parameters. Because the Quran is not a book that prescribes every minutiae of your life. The Quran is a book that offers hudud, parameters. Tilka hududullah. These are the parameters that Allah has provided. You'll find the word hudud very, very commonly in the Quran. And we are instructed by the Quran to respect the hudud of Allah, the parameters of Allah, the boundaries, the framework. And so the Quran is not a book of detailed laws, but rather it sets forth a series and a set of hudud, of parameters. And so it allows for human freedom, human functioning within those parameters. And that is the difficult part, you see. That is the difficult part. You are looking for detailed laws. You are craving a law that says, how should I stand in salah? How should I speak? How should I deal with the Quran? How should I wash? How should I take a bath? And these are not there. The only detailed instruction in the Quran is on an ablution, to wash what we call wudu, which is also not a Quranic term, but the washing. We are told clearly to wash face and hands. That is a very clear instruction in the Quran. And then the purpose of that is for cleanliness. So, what then, coming back to the question, what then is left of Islam once we abandon hadith literature as a sacred source of law? What remains? Yes, I want to then offer to you what is left of Islam when you abandon the hadith literature. You see, you are left with a framework. You are left with a series and a set of parameters. You are told what not to consume for food, but you are not told what you should consume. So that wide field is open to you. You see, the concept of halal and haram, the Quran only decides what is haram, what is out of bounds for food consumption. And the things that are out of bound are very, very clear. Go to Surah Ma'idah and you will see it there listed. They are things such as the meat of pork, carrion, dead animals found on the road, an animal that has been slaughtered to other than Allah, those are items of food that are out of bounds. But the Quran does not state what is within bounds. The Quran does not say then that you are not allowed to eat crocodile. You are not allowed to eat crayfish. You are not allowed to eat lobster. You are not allowed. There's nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. Those are all the inventions of these priests, my friends. And that makes it difficult because you are longing for somebody to tell you, is this food halal? When you drink a cup of, when you buy something at the restaurant, you are hypersensitive about, who made this? Is this halal? When Allah has simply stated that if it is not pork and it is not slaughtered to anyone but Allah, it is halal. But we cannot. The shackles on the mind are so strong that we are waiting for the halal emblem on the food that some priest has put there, and with which he's earned a handsome annual fee from, which he's gotten rich from, the priests. So what is left then of Islam if we abandon the fake Sharia and the fake Hadith that we are being fed as the words and the will of Allah, which are not clearly not the will and the words of Allah? We are left with the parameters, and then we are left, most importantly, my good friends, listen to me very carefully, we are left with our intellect. You have to exercise your intellect. We are all born with the same amount of brain cells, I believe, with the same capacity for thinking, and for that we have to apply our minds. Let me take an analogy for you. You there are earning your living, I'm sure. If you're not a student, if you're a man or a woman, you are earning your keep, right? You're doing this through a job, or you're doing this through your business, or you're doing this through, investments, whatever. You are earning a living, right? Now let me ask you this. If I gave you a set of rules, a book with 2,000 rules in, exactly do this, do that, invest in this company, treat your worker like that, do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you follow those 2,000 rules verbatim in detail. If you follow those 2,000 rules, you as the businessman, you as the employee, you as the investor, whoever you are, if I offer you that set of rules and you have a detailed plan of operation, are you guaranteed that you will have a successful income, successful living, that you will survive financially? Are you? Are you? Because if that was possible, then all we had to do to eliminate global poverty and to fix the problems of the world is we just have to teach those 2,000 things to the universities and to the schools. And we would eliminate all unemployment, all poverty, all hardship. They will do it in Pakistan, and they will do it in India, and they will do it in Africa, and all problems will be eliminated, isn't it? But you know as well as I do that you cannot thrive financially by following somebody else's rules. You cannot succeed financially if you you copy what I'm doing. You cannot. It's impossible, because your conditions are different, your character is different, your personality is different, your context is different, the climate in which you're operating is different, the needs of your people are different, and so you cannot replicate my business that I'm doing in Cape Town, South Africa, or in Sweden, or in South America, and replicate it where you are. It won't work. We have to be actively involved in scheming and devising and using our intellect and our intelligence and our skill to be successful. in business or at our jobs. We have to. There's no other choice. But now, if I tell you that Islam is similar, Islam, serving Allah, being devoted to Allah is similar. You cannot be successful by incorporating things that a man who lived 14 or 1200 years ago, whether it is Abu Hanifa or Shafi'i or Bukhari, you cannot be successful at serving or at being a servant or a devotee and to be a committer to the natural way of the universe by just copying somebody that lived for 1200 years ago. It's ridiculous. You have to craft and shape the way you will become a wholesome, healthy Muslim and a mu'min. And that you do by applying your intellect. The ground rules, the parameters are there for you. Do not steal, do not deceive, be kind, be merciful, bring zakah, moral refinement, make salah, staying connected to Allah, devoted to Allah and connected to people. Jihad, making special effort, striving with your goods and your persons. Being clean, being a clean person, being hygienic. In other words, being free of filth, physical filth, pollution, urine, feces, whatever on your body. Being free of mental filth, the mental filth you find on the internet and commonly today. And so the parameters are there. Stay away from fahsh, fawahish. It is abominable actions. It is actions of sadism and smut. That is fahsha. Zina, it is adultery or fornication. It is eating what is unhealthy and destructive. It is treating other people with disrespect, abandoning the poor, the orphan, the older person. I'm giving you the contents or the parameters that you need to inculcate in your mind and in your consciousness. Because these are the very items that constitute the real Sharia, not the 1001 laws that are written for you. It is these ideas that I've mentioned now, or these practices, or these injunctions that shape you as a refined human being. And as far as the details are concerned, that is your responsibility. Now, to conclude, there is an argument to be made that we don't all have the time to consult the Quran and to find out what is in and what is out and what is preferred and what is not preferred, is what types of food would constitute haram, halal, whatever. I told you already that the concept of halal is an unnecessary concept. We only need the concept of haram, which the Quran generally, the general rule is the Quran will tell you what is out of bounds. The rest is generally considered to be within bounds or permissible. So the question then becomes, what do I do if I'm a worker and I'm having a hard time knowing what exactly I should do? I don't even have the time to study the Quran in detail, and so what is the answer? For that, I want to offer you, that is why there is such a thing called expertise. You see, I'm not in reject of expertise. I'm not somebody, and I'm not rejecting that Imam Shafi'i or Abu Hanifa in their time, they could have been experts. So I'm not rejecting the idea of expertise. We all need experts. I need a health expert to help me when I'm sick. I'm not a health expert. I need a legal expert to help me when I'm in trouble with the law or when I've got a legal issue. And so we need people who have done more work in terms of researching the Book of Allah. And so for that, I'm offering you, yes, there is the idea of taking your cue from somebody who has done the research and done the investigation. But we never lose our own accountability. We always have to be in control, and we choose whom we select as an expert. So, in summary, what I've said is that, it's very difficult for people to conceive of a world or an Islam without hadith. And the position I have advanced is that there is no such a thing as sacred texts besides the Quran. And so all hadiths are just it's just man-made work. Sometimes it's truth, sometimes it's fiction. We don't know. And so the Quran is the sole source of holy law, of Sharia. The minutiae and the details are not in the Quran. The Quran offers the parameters. And the difficulty we have is getting used to that idea that we are given parameters. We are told what not to eat. But if it comes to what you want to eat, you need to make up your own mind. You need to decide, is this food I'm about to consume good for me? Is it good for my health? And you need to do the homework. But in conclusion, what I said was, we don't all have that detailed expertise to know what is good and what is bad. And so for that, we refer to the experts. So what I will do is, if I have to take a pill and the doctors recommend, I would do the research and find out what are the negative side effects of that tablet. If I have to eat a particular food and I'm wondering, is it halal or haram? Obviously, if it is destructive or harmful, it is haram. And so I will do the research to find out whether that particular food has got harmful ingredients. And so life, being human, is what I'm arguing today is a process of being actively involved, of being active in the decision making in all your voluntary decisions. And those are the traits of a free people. Those are the traits of a free people. A people who are enslaved mentally or intellectually will never be free, and they are not able to free other people. So let me end off on that note. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalamu alaikum.